like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do? You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What's up, film fans? Welcome to episode 275. Welcome back to Middle Earth, and welcome to a new episode of the Cine-Men movie podcast. I am here joined by the cast of crew. We are all here. I'm Juan, Zach.
What's up, guys?
Craig.
Yo, yo.
Guys, not only are we on the second episode of December already, but we're talking Return of the King. It's a first-time watch for me, and it celebrates its 20th anniversary in just a few days. How's everybody's week been?
Oh, can't complain. Just counting down the days to another weekend.
Yeah, just kind of finishing up Christmas shopping and everything, so.
Christmas shopping. You know, speaking of Christmas shopping, I went to Target this past weekend, and it was crazy. It was almost like everybody was looking for a Turbo Man doll. That's how busy it was. Packed to the rafters, man. I couldn't believe it. I haven't been Christmas shopping like that in a while. And man, the Target moms were just slinging their purses around. They were trying to get them deals, boy.
Yeah, so we ended up going, Adley stayed the night with the in-laws. So we went out and had dinner, put the tree up and everything like that. So we went to Target. Your boy didn't walk away empty-handed. I got my own little stuff was on sale. You know, if it's on sale, you got to get it, right? Isn't that
That's the deal.
That's the deal.
Yeah, they pulled out a bunch of 2023 movies as well, but they're $14.99 and they said on sale. To me, $14.99 is not on sale.
No.
Remember when Black Friday you could get movies for $3.99 and
Yeah.
I almost picked up Sonic 2, but I think I'll wait a little bit more for that. But yeah, Christmas shopping, we're a few weeks away. I think I saw like 16 days away or something like that. I don't know. And for those of you that don't,
like 16 days.
For those of you that don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays and everything in between. We're just a few episodes away from our big top 5+5 holiday movies of all time. That list is going to consist of a bunch of different movies, I'm sure. Those are the movies that you have to grab when it's Christmas time. Like, to me, it's not Christmas unless I watch at least those 10 movies. So we'll be getting into it here in a few days. But today, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I'm not gonna lie, Zach, you picked the girthiest of girth to watch today. And this is our third 3-hour movie back to back to back.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer, Scarface, and now Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. So it's insane, but I can't kind of wait to get into it. So why wait?
Let's do it.
I did not watch the extended girthiness.
Extended?
I did not watch the 4-hour. How long is the extended cut, Zach?
You said the theatrical's what, 3 hours and 20?
3:20.
It's like literally like 40 minutes longer. It's just barely 4 hours.
I can tell you right. I have
just 40 minutes, he says.
Yeah, because there's like 30 minutes of credits, literally.
Oh, I thought I could find it quicker than that.
But let's get into it. You guys can check this movie out on HBO Max. You can also check it out physical copy, buy it, Blu-ray, 4K. IMDb has it at a 9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is at 94%. The Metascore is at 94%, and the Google users like it at 85%. With a $94 million budget, this movie grossed a little over $1.1 billion at the box office. Gandalf and Aragorn lead the world of men against Sauron's army to draw his gaze from Frodo and Sam as they approach Mount Doom with the One Ring. Starring Elijah Wood, Viggo Mortensen, Ian McKellen, Orlando Bloom, Sean Astin, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett is also in there. Sean Bean from the Two Towers, correct?
Yeah.
Directed by Peter Jackson.
He loves his 3-hour movies.
Literally.
So let's get into it. The last 3 years, this marks our third year talking about a Lord of the Rings movie. 2 years ago, Two Towers, and the year before that was Fellowship. But Zach, this was your pick. All three movies have been your idea. You're a fan, and Craig, you enjoy this movie as well. And these kind of I want to say these kind of epics. What makes Lord of the Rings, before we get into it, stand out to you guys over Star Wars, Star Trek, just some of the bigger epic trilogies and franchises out there? What's different about Lord of the Rings?
Zach, you want to go or?
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. I just like the story more. I think this one is just a much more emotionally driven story than Star Wars or whatever. I like the characters of it. I like the filmmaking aspect of it, because essentially at one time, they say these books would never be able to be adapted into a live action film, and Peter Jackson was able to do it. And but damn, by the time you get to this third one, it's pretty incredible what he was able to accomplish.
Yeah. For me, it's going to be compared to like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, some of those other ones, the score is great in all of them. So you kind of even that out. The thing for me is the practicality of all their props, the makeup, like Zach said, the storytelling. The lore for me for Star Wars is a little bit better, just because I like that whole thing. But the practicality of this actually possibly taking place, thousands of years ago, kind of hits home a little bit different. So I think the way that they were able to shoot on location for these movies, the practical effects, practical makeup, costumes, everything like that, I think it just adds a whole nother level to these movies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how like New Zealand is technically Middle Earth, and you can go on tours to see where they shot the films and everything. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not to mention, this is the only movie trilogy besides The Godfather where all three movies were nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
And then this one, Return of the King, is the one that eventually won it. But Zach, let's get started.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first time you watched it? Was it a theater watch, and what was it like revisiting it for the podcast?
Yeah, saw this in the theater when it came out. And I remember this being like a huge deal, I guess, because this was the final one and all this and that. And I know Titanic was before this, which was made $1 billion, but I remember this was like the first one that I like actually remember, like, wow, it made $1 billion. That's a huge deal. Like I said, saw in the theater, had a blast with it. Really, this is the out of all three, this is the one I've seen the least. But on this rewatch, I really understand why it won Best Picture, because it really is everything everything it is and more, honestly. So, what about you, Craig?
I'll go next. Why Craig?
No, I'm good.
Sure.
So again, we talked about this the last two times. This was a yearly thing for us. I think the movie came out around the 18th every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go to my dad's grandparents for Christmas around the 21st or something like that. So right around that same weekend, we would get AMC gift cards literally every Christmas. And that's what we would do the very next day. We would go to Christmas and go see Lord of the Rings at Quail Springs Mall. And I think that might be partially why I'm so attached to Quail Springs Mall, is because I have such, fond memories of going there when I was younger. Just the whole kind of blacklight atmosphere they have going back through the back. I just remember that a lot going to see those movies. So, but yeah, like you said, Zach, you knew it was a big deal around this time. It was showing on the news like, oh, it's coming out. It's made this much money. And, the only things that were kind of comparing to it at the time were, like you said, Titanic. I think Harry Potter might have had 1 or 2 out by this time.
Yeah, 2 of them were out by that, and yeah, I think
Maybe
the
Matrix.
the last 2
Matrix.
Matrix movies was that same year as well.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it was being compared to other movies, but it was like, yo, this movie is taking the top spot over all these other movies, and so it was just this massive deal that even the news was sharing at that time.
Yeah, and I'm the odd one out then, I guess. This is the first time I watched it. Was set down today in its entirety. Last 2 years I talked about. I've seen parts of Two Towers and parts of Fellowship, but now due to this podcast, it's because of sitting down and talking about them. So I sat down and watched it for the first time today in its entirety, and I'll definitely say like my final thoughts, at least when the movie was over, like it's pretty epic. Like I wish I could have seen this on a big screen. I wish I could have been like something still inside me. I'm not a diehard fan like Zach is, and I don't have any kind of attachment to these movies like Craig. But something inside me, I feel like I want to be attached to these movies somehow, but it's not there for me. But we'll talk about it. Zach, lead the conversation, my good sir.
Yeah. Let's start. I guess we'll start off with the prologue, which all 3 films have a prologue. I think this one, when we get to see like Smeagol's transformation into Gollum, I think this is the darkest opening out of all 3 of the films.
Yes,
it's definitely the most. It really sets the mood for the rest of the film, honestly.
Yeah, just kind of, it's almost like a foreshadowing of, it shows what the ring can do to somebody, and it's almost a foreshadowing of, in Two Towers, you kind of see Frodo's journey kind of turn into that prologue. You see bits and pieces of that in the Two Towers. So I think there's kind of piggyback off of Two Towers and show that initially. It's like, okay, if he doesn't get this done, like there's a chance that he may turn into a form of this. And so I think it's a very good prologue. It kind of, like I said, piggybacks off the second one and foreshadows what could happen in this one.
Yeah. And this definitely, obviously, one of the great is the makeup. I mean, Andy Serkis' performance as his character is just really epic, and it really set the tone for what we could do for visual, like just CGI complete characters.
Right.
But his transformation between like the losing of his hair, that teeth scene where he like bites into the fish, and it's like the really demented looking teeth is just really nasty looking. And then just the final shot before we get into the actual scene is just, he closes his eyes and you see like the big bulging eyes that Gollum has. And that just sets it off. And we get into Frodo and Sam's journey. Do you think, Johnny, for one, the one that's kind of being the odd man out for this trilogy, I think out of all the characters, do you think Frodo and Sam's journey is like at least the most exciting, or do you think it kind of lags in some places?
In this movie?
This movie or all 3 just in general?
I think it's the most intriguing out of especially getting to this movie. I think the journey that those 2 have, you're sitting back waiting for something bad to happen. I know at least that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I was just like, waiting for something bad to happen. But leading into this movie, I feel like the journey from beginning to end in this movie, I wrote down that this has a lot of one of those like a 3-hour movie. There's so many different stories just thrown in together, whether it's something like Traffic, Crash, or The Godfather. This movie felt like that, and I almost thought there was maybe too much going on at once while watching this one. But I kind of just kept wanting more of Sam and Frodo's journey.
Yeah. Well, and there for a second, the group is kind of together, like Aragorn, Gandalf, Merry, Pippin, Legolas, and Gimli. They're all together, but then Gandalf and Pippin ride off to Minas Tirith, and now we're kind of back into Two Towers territory where everyone's divided at different locations. I enjoy that to some extent. Like, I think, and this really isn't even a criticism, I think the weakest of it is the Aragorn stuff until he gets to the Path of the Dead. That stuff.
Yeah, no, I think these films, you you have such a grand story to tell, and you're only doing it across 3 films, around 3 hours each, and you're able to tell all of these different side stories, subplots, where it's kind of just like the Marvel stuff. You have all these timelines going together at the same time. It's honestly, if I'm not mistaken, the first time any movie had tried to do something like this, where you're telling that many stories across a trilogy. Most trilogies, there's like Toy Story, it's all the same things kind of going in one singular story. But to be able to tell all these different stories across 3 different movies, have them told pretty well for the most part. I think, like you said, Johnny, I think the third one kind of lags in that area. But to be able to do it throughout 3 movies, it's really a testament to how well prepared the director was.
I kind of felt like the opposite.
Really,
just kind of piggybacking off what Craig said. Like, I feel like I feel like the third one.
What do you mean? Like,
I feel like the third one tells all those different stories the best. And I feel like if there was a film that kind of lagged in telling those stories all at once, it was probably Two Towers. Two Towers is where I kept twiddling my thumbs a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the Two Towers is really one that's based off of building that divide. Like, you're finally coming to a head of 2 powers really getting to a point to where it's like, okay, we have to do something about what's going on. And I feel like that's what Two Towers really was. It was just a momentum build of a clash, whereas the other ones are mainly storytelling. Obviously, this one has fights in it and the ultimate ending, but
well, and really, if you want to get down to it, Two Towers is essentially just them dealing with Saruman, and then they get back to Sauron in this movie, and so I feel like the big thing with Two Towers is the Helm's Deep sequence towards the end of the film. This one has like 4 or 5 epic battle sequences in it. I mean, it like rewatching, I was like, damn, I forgot how like epic this movie was, honestly. Do we so Craig, I'm sure you've seen the extended edition of this, right?
I honestly have not.
Okay.
If I have, I didn't know I did, because it was just so long ago, and it was like on DVD, and we just put it in.
So Zach, let's talk about that. What's the big difference? I mean, the 40-minute difference of the extended cut, is it that much more of a difference to where it makes you look like a whole another movie?
It just fills in some of the, I don't want to say plot holes because it makes it sound negative, like they didn't know what they were doing. It just fills in a little bit more of the story. Like when the group gets to like Isengard and they're talking to Treebeard, there's a whole another like 15-20 minute scene of like Saruman and like what happens to him and Wormtongue.
I would put it this way: normal versions probably for the public.
Yeah,
extended is like for the nerds. Fans. Yeah, it's for the people that really want to dive in and know all the minute details. Kind of probably more so match it to the book than what they were able to screen to make it quote unquote acceptable for normal moviegoers.
And some of it is the Path of the Dead sequence is a lot more extended, where you don't know if they're going to make it out alive. There's a whole thing which I read, in preference this, I read the book because I was just curious to see what the difference was. There is a whole subsection of like Faramir and Erwin, like they get together, and that's in the book, which I'm glad they cut that out because you don't need that. Yeah, and really the rest of it is just extended battle sequences, whether it be just different angles or different shots or whatever. I will say the attack on Minas Tirith is a lot cooler in the extended edition, honestly. Because there's like batting rams and different animals and all kinds of stuff.
At one point, I feel like maybe from the moment hour number 2 started, for a whole hour and a half is nothing but fight sequences. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it was all in. It felt like you were getting ready to watch something just massive end. And like, me not knowing what's going to happen, I'm like, man, it's the last movie. Who's going to die? Is something really bad going to happen? It really does take you on a different adventure when it comes to Viggo Mortensen's character too.
Yeah. And to me, and that I think out of reading the books and just, I think one of the common criticisms not just for me, but I think just in general with Tolkien, just J.R. Tolkien as an author, is that he just didn't kill off. Like in this last book, in this last movie, they should just some of the main characters should just drop either in the battle sequences or whatever. I know like the biggest one that we lose is Theoden, and we got introduced to him in the second movie, so it wasn't even one of the core fellowship. So
what was I know what was up with that main scene where Gandalf had the crystal ball,
and
they were like trying to make sure that nobody like touched it.
yeah.
Was it just the Hobbit's like obsession with touching things, or was he really meant to like probably die off by holding on to that ball?
I think the main thing with hobbits is just their curiosity, especially Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
It's not that they were wanting to do something bad or wrong. It's just their pure curiosity and kind of childlike tendencies to want to just do stuff.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I think it's also like, you know, anyone that sees the ring or kind of sees that type of power, it's almost like a drug that they want more of because, you know, he's just kind of sitting there going like, let me just take one more look at it, just one more time. And, you know, he sees the Eye of Sauron and is like, almost has like a brain hemorrhage or something.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, we referenced Star Wars, like the whole Jedi mind trick stuff. It pulls the weak to try and, I'm not calling them necessarily weak, but once it has an insight to you because he had seen it initially for a little bit before, it's almost like it manipulates you into doing what it wants so that it can progress while not being, you know, it's using the ball to progress and to be able to see things. It's kind of like the ring with how the wraiths can see you when it's on.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, and this question is for both of you guys, really, because I've only seen Return of the King once, and the other films probably combined like 3 or 4 times. The whole idea of the ring, you have 6 movies. I don't know where the TV show falls on this. Zach, one of you guys might be able to know to answer that question. But you got 6 movies. Has there really only been 3 holders of the ring, technically, with Smeagol, Bobo, and Frodo?
Bobo. Bilbo, yeah. I mean, essentially, yeah, because of, like the prologue of Fellowship hints at the idea that Smeagol had the ring for like hundreds of years, and then you get the Hobbit trilogy, and then Bilbo has it for like 64, 65 years or whatever, and then it goes to Frodo. So yeah, that makes sense.
As far as on the quote unquote good side, there's been 3 holders, but who was the guy at the very beginning of Fellowship?
Isildur. Yeah, which is
he has it in the mountain, and but the bad guy at the very beginning, he has it on his finger.
Sauron,
and then he cuts it off his hand. Yeah, Sauron. Yeah. Wasn't sure if it was Sauron or for somebody else, but yeah. So technically, there's 5 on screen that have it in their possession.
Yeah, that's true. And you also got to take into account, you know, they say that the ring was lost for years and it's became like a myth. So probably in that good chance that it was Smeagol or Gollum that had it during that time. I don't know. I haven't seen the Amazon Prime show. There's just a part of my brain that was to watch it.
Was that? I heard
some
things about it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch it because I don't want to taint what I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that's like thousands of years, even before the Hobbit series.
So you think it still technically ties into the same timeline, or do you think it's a whole new adventure?
It's different. There's not one single person in the movies that's in the show, I think.
Yeah, but like, does it? I think it ties into the Peter Jackson movies, but not like. Okay, not so like this is like a bridge.
Not like a direct prequel.
No.
Okay.
So it is kind of its own adventure, but they're kind of doing something different with it.
I'm just like in awe, really, of just like the way this movie just started, the beginning. Man, I don't know. I really do wish I just had not the knowledge, but just the want to for this movie, like you guys do. I mean,
Is it because you grew like with Star Wars? You grew up watching that, and like you weren't
It wasn't
exposed to
forced
Lord of the
upon
Rings when
me.
you were younger. Yeah,
It wasn't forced upon me.
yeah,
I mean, probably, but there's been some other trilogies that or some other franchises that I've picked up on that I just wasn't forced upon me. But I think maybe that might have been one. Like it just wasn't like constantly always on the TV. It wasn't forced on me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
I wouldn't say it was forced upon me. It was just one of those movies that I remember seeing like the first teaser for Fellowship, and it was like, okay, so this is going to be like some big epic adventure, and it looked cool.
Even when it would come on TNT and stuff, like
But you
2000.
don't want to watch those.
Yeah,
It's so
right.
watered down on TNT.
But like
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad would sit there and watch them all and like be in awe of them. But like that, nope, my head's turning. I'm going in the other room. I didn't want anything to do with it.
I think the biggest thing for me was it wasn't really necessarily forced on me. But like my brother read the books. I think my mom kind of understood like what the lore was of it, and my dad was interested after seeing the trailers and everything. So when we went, it was just an immediate captivation of how massive the story, how grand the scenes were, where you had all of the on location shots and everything. And I think it just became like the first time you saw it, you immediately were just like, okay, this is something that you should be watching and be a part of just because of how big it was. Yeah. And I think from that point on, it became a movie that would be thrown on our TV. We'd have a Blu-ray player and throw it on the movie or on the TV or Blu-ray DVD player and watch it on a summer night once or twice a year, all three of them. And so it was, we watched them multiple times throughout the course of having them.
Well, just as a personal side note, personal story for me is my cancer came back the second time when the first movie came out. So it was kind of like a big deal. And we had a family friend. This is like when DVD was like brand new, maybe a couple years in. And she bought me a DVD player. And the first two movies was Fellowship of the Ring and Ali. And I wore that Fellowship of the Ring DVD copy out.
Yeah. I remember. So I honestly think Lord of the Rings was the reason we got a DVD player, because I just remember my mom. We were at Walmart and we got this DVD player, this big boxy DVD player with two speakers, and she was like, "We're getting this, but we're not going to go spend money on all these DVDs like we did on VHSs." Well, sure enough,
what happened?
We didn't have near the collection of this guy up here, but
right.
we had quite a bit of DVDs, more so later on in the DVD player's life. But
really, and if you think about it, Lord of the Rings, that was still in the time of VHS, because I actually still remember, I think Return of the King was like Titanic. It was divided up on two VHS tapes because it was that long.
Wow. I see. I never had the VHS. I do remember the whole Microsoft HD TV or HD DVD.
Yeah, HD DVD. Yeah,
it was like one of the first ones to be on it, along with Kong and some others.
Going back to the movie, we have Frodo. One of the things that I really, really liked, and this wasn't in the book, but I really liked the idea of Gollum like putting a wedge between Frodo and Sam when he like gets rid of like the Elvis bread and everything. And essentially, Sean Astin's performance in this movie is really fantastic. Honestly,
probably tops.
Even Elijah
it's definitely
Woods.
top three.
And Peter Jackson was just stunned that he didn't get like a supporting actor nomination. And I agree with it, because
100%.
That scene, and then especially the climactic scene where he says, "If I can't carry it for you, I'll carry you," and he just puts him on his back and starts climbing up Mount Doom. That
Mr. Frodo.
Yeah. What do you think about it, Johnny? So obviously, did you expect that going in, or did you think one of them would die?
I mean, looking through the awards, I was like, okay, if it won 11 for 11, surely it got a Best Actor nod.
No, it's all technical.
And so what? It won 11 out of what, 14?
No, let's see. I got them right here. One Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Film Editing, Makeup, Original Score, Original Song, Sound Mixing, and Visual Effects. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 11. So it was one of the first. It was one of the films like Ben-Hur and Titanic that everything it was nominated for it won. So that's like 1 out of 3 films in Oscar history that they've ever done that.
The scene where Sean Astin does pick up Frodo, and the chemistry between those two in this film was phenomenal. If I had to pick somebody, I'd probably pick him. I feel like he should have got nominated. There's numerous scenes in that movie where he's just overpowered, and he's not just overpowered, but he's completely the best on screen. I think he's by far better than
Elijah
Wood, Viggo Mortensen, even though they don't share the screen that much together in this movie. A lot of people say Sean Astin's best performance was Rudy. I think it's this one.
Yeah, I would agree.
Might be 50 First Dates, but that's a debate for another day.
First Dates.
I can't argue with that. That is his best performance.
or Click. He was in Click too.
Click is a good one. But I mean, 2004, actor in a leading role: Sean Penn, Mystic River. Supporting role: Tim Robbins, Mystic River. They didn't even win cinematography. Like, what are we doing here?
Let's see.
Cinematography went to Master and Commander.
Jeez,
This was my first time watching it too.
You're on a boat. Like, what are we doing? Pirates of the Caribbean did the same thing,
and it did it better than Master and Commander. Out of curiosity, Best
it wasn't
Picture,
even the top 5.
Best Picture, obviously Return of the King, but it was up against Lost in Translation, which I've actually heard really good things about. Master and Commander, Mystic River, and Seabiscuit. So I think out of those, Return of the King deserves it.
I have all those, but I have not seen Mystic River, and I hear amazing things about Mystic River.
Oh, it's a Clint Eastwood film.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, maybe
I think their hands were drawn when it came to this year.
they didn't want to do everything.
I think they were like, you know what? Fellowship didn't get it. Two Towers didn't get it. This is the best out of the 3. No matter what it's up against, it has to win.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think, and thinking about it in retrospect, do you think that it won everything because it is the best, or do you think because of what Peter Jackson was able to accomplish with these 3 films? It's like, okay, we'll give it to him.
Probably a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, looking at some of the other stuff, I mean,
when you have Sean Penn in there, he's the one that won Best Actor that year, right?
Yep.
But I mean, you're looking at like costume design. Look at all the costumes they had to provide. Cinematography, did it get art direction? Same thing. All the makeup, costumes, everything like that. Directing, score, film editing. I mean, you're having to edit all that stuff to get a 3-hour movie. You know what I mean? Like, I think everything they won, they deservedly won, which they probably could have won more. But again, you can't have just one thing kind of sweep everything.
Sean Astin probably would have won it if he picked up Frodo and was like, "Hey, yo, Frodo, I did it!"
Rudium.
A little sign of Rocky. Speaking of that scene, though, like leading into before that spider and Frodo getting like the it. Like I said, I'd never seen this movie before. I thought Frodo was going to die right there. There's 3 parts in this movie where I thought Frodo was going to die.
Well, it's always interesting, like a fan theory of like, if what had Frodo had died, do you think Sam could have had the will to get it all the way to Mount Doom, or do you think he would have got corruptible by the ring?
Man, I don't know, because you got to go back and look at the way he was being badmouthed by Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
He constantly being criticized about his weight.
I think
Gollum kept calling him a fat piece of shit.
So
he did.
Essentially, yeah.
He was like, "Look at the crumbs on him. He ate it."
What's taters, precious? I know that was a different movie, but
Those 2 towers.
no, I personally, if we're gonna kind of fantasize and fan theory, I don't think he would have made it. I think he had the will and the wherewithal to do that mission, but I think his main drive was Frodo.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think just the friendship and the bond that he had, and the want to be able to help him persevere in the journey that he put forth on his shoulders. I think that's what drove Sam. I think if Frodo would have, died, I don't know if Sam would have been able to do that. I just don't think. Like I said, I think his whole drive was wanting to be there to help.
Well, and I like how you put that, because that's definitely a callback to the first film of, like, Gandalf gave that job to him alone, get him to wherever he needs to go, and that's essentially his mission throughout these 3 films.
Yep.
Let's talk about some of the battle sequences, because, like I said, there so many of these scenes are just like, wow, that's just truly epic. Obviously there is a lot of CGI, but like you said, Kirk, there's a lot of practicality. There's a lot of stuntman work. There's a lot of armor and costumes and all that. I would have to say, like, there are so many, like, get up out of your seat and cheer moments, or you just want to join the battle sequences. Like, the one that really sticks out for me is the Pelennor Fields, when, like, the giant elephants, like, you can see the 2 armies come together, and that the one just, like, swings his trunk into the army, and just, like, people and horses are flying all over the place. So I was like, damn, this is epic. This is so awesome.
Yeah.
What are those things called that look like they're deformed Who people? Like they're from Whoville.
Orcs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a big Grinch moment there. One of them was like Grinch.
One person that I always forget is in this movie is Carl Urban.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
His character looks nothing. Carl Urban has the dark hair. His character has that light blonde-ish, and it just doesn't ever look like him. He's usually wearing the armor, but watching, like, Thor the other day, and I was like, man, it's hard to believe that he's been in all these different movies. Star Trek, Thor, Lord of the Rings. Like, you want to talk about having a resume. Like, he may not be the leading actor in a majority of these, but those are pretty 3 good franchises to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Carl Urban this year, now that I think about it.
Oh, we haven't even mentioned Hugo Weaving being in this trilogy and The Matrix.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost in the same time span.
I think the only person I that gets the short stick, and that's just partly because of the source material, is Liv Tyler. I mean, I get they set that romance up in the first film, and it goes through the 3 films, but she's only in this movie like 10 minutes of the 3 hours and 20 minutes. So
I thought you were going to say Elijah Wood. I go back to last year and the year before, and I will stand at that argument. Is one of the main reasons I'm not attracted to these movies. In Elijah Wood, I do not trust. He's not entertaining to me. I don't like his portrayal of Frodo. I just don't get it. I never have got it. I don't know. Am I being too hard on Elijah Wood? Because Frodo is my least. He's my least favorite character.
Is it because you hate Flipper so much?
I hate Flipper? No.
There's a reference for somebody that doesn't know.
I think it's just I'm not sold on Elijah Wood. I never have. I mean, that's one of the big turnoffs about these movies to me is Elijah Wood.
He hasn't done anything since the Lord. I don't even know the last thing he was in since Return of the King, to be honest.
He was on a TV show on TNT.
Oh, was it Wilfred, where he has like the dog
something
show?
Like that? Yeah.
I mean, same thing in like stuff like The Faculty. It's not the character. It's not Frodo. It's Elijah Wood. I think he's the least interesting thing about The Faculty.
He don't drink Dos Equis, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
He's not the most interesting man in the world.
I don't know. And that's, I brought that argument up last year, and
for me, I think this was the first thing that I really remember seeing him in.
Yeah.
And so I don't think this is the worst thing that I've seen him in. I've seen him in some other stuff, but I'm with you. Like, I think he fits this role, but I think everything else that he's in, I'm just kind of like it's all right, but it's not. Yeah.
I think I would have enjoyed maybe the Frodo character more if the roles were reversed. If Elijah Wood played Sam and Sean Austin played Frodo. Because Sean Austin, like people make fun, people do make fun of him sometimes if you go out there and read some of the reviews about him. But Sean Austin, dude, he has it. Go back and watch some of his stuff, and he's a very, very entertaining, charismatic dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think he was really good in the season of Stranger Things he was on. I kind of wish they hadn't killed him off.
I just the Elijah Wood does not have me involved.
Looked.
Yeah, I mean everything that I'm not going to say everything, but what I've seen of Sean Astin, he's able to be diverse. He's able to deliver on screen. He's able to capture the scenes that he's in when he's on screen. I mean, there's not really I can't recall a character or movie that I've seen him in where I was just like, that's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like you said, Stranger Things, Lord of the Rings, The Goonies, 51st Dates. Like you're going to a lot of different realms of characters, and he's able to portray them all very nicely.
Yeah, that's true. So, Johnny, did you have like a thank God he's dead moment when Gollum fell into the lava and just gets sucked into it?
Well, that's the second time I thought he was gone. The first time is when Frodo throws him over, like I think like an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, and I thought he was dead then.
Yeah.
But I guess I like how he just comes out of nowhere and like he's been stalking him the entire time. I thought that was a creepy venture. But I did like that scene. It reminded me of the Terminator 2 lava scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that scene. Frodo puts the ring on, he disappears, and then Gollum just bites his finger off, and that was pretty dark. I really enjoyed that scene a lot.
And that's directly from the book. That wasn't like made up for the movie. That's in the book, so that was cool.
Something inside me thought that Frodo was just going to run up and push him off the cliff instead of going and trying to get the ring back.
But I like that. I like that, even though like he is like seriously on his deathbed. He had his finger bitten off. All he cares about and wants is that ring.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows the power of it.
That's true, because that would have almost been the demise of both of them. When he could have just pushed him off the cliff, and him and the ring would have been gone away with. So, and then there was I didn't think it was going to happen, but there was a slight tease in me where I thought Sam was going to go up and push both of them off the cliff. And then I was like, oh, that's a strange of two different movies.
No, that's in the director's extended edition. So.
That's in the Sam cut.
The Sam cut.
Pull out a 45 and just shoot them. Right. Destroy it. No. All right then.
That's funny that you say that, because I had just gotten watching something before, and the first time you see Sam lose it and start hitting Gollum with the rock, I thought he was gonna whip out a gun and just boom. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a wrong movie. But
you watched Scarface one too many times before doing this.
Sam, my little friend.
I do like that whole mixture of those three in the just the venture that those three have. Like I said, I'll go back to it. That was the most fun for me in this movie, was just those three together. So,
well, and you also have like overlapping that is the final battle with like where Aragorn says for Frodo and just like starts running towards the orcs of Mount Doom. And that's another epic scene, honestly. And that's just one of those, like, you're at the very last second, the very last moment. All hope could literally be lost, but it's just like, no, we're going to fight to the death just to give Frodo and Sam a couple extra minutes to do what they need to do.
So once the ring got destroyed, that means that the whole, like, all the other armies, like, poofed and they were gone, right?
Yeah, essentially. I every time I see that, it kind of cracks me up, where it's just like the ground just like falls underneath them, and all the armies of Mordor just like fall into it. It's just like, so there's like none left over. Because if you notice, some of them get away. It's just like, where do they go?
Well, I think it's just it's the fact that there is nothing left that provides them with the power. So it's like
Yeah.
you can't build up more armies. There's nothing else that's there to help them kind of quote unquote conquer.
Yeah.
It's gone. The one ring to rule them all. You can't rule them all if you don't have the ring.
And I like that. And I like the scene where Sauron's tower just literally gets obliterated. Like it almost forms like a circle, and just like that's how like everything gets destroyed because the power is gone and nothing can revamp it.
Dak Prescott better be careful, or his quest to get the ring, he might turn into Schmeagle here pretty soon.
There's our football reference for the episode.
And then when everything is over, you think that it's just almost. You think the movie's almost over, but there's like another 20 minutes, 15 minutes of just. You get the Wizard of Oz ending where Frodo wakes up in the bed and everybody starts coming towards him, and at one point I'm like, "Don't tell me this whole thing was a dream."
How pissed off would you be if that was the truth?
Everybody starts coming in, and
Ben had too many drinks after the beginning festival for Bilbo's birthday.
Yeah.
The other two hobbits get in the bed and start playing with him, and there's
Don't say it like that.
I know.
There's Gandalf just sitting there looking at him. I'm like, don't tell me this thing ends with it just being a big dream.
Have you seen the meme or the GIF or whatever of him getting in bed and they smile and they're like, there's two of them, I think. They both have like really jacked up teeth and they are both like gumless and they're just like laughing hysterically. People have too much time on their hands.
No, Frodo was just a severe alcoholic. He's just that was the problem.
He got drunk. He got drunk, had a bad dream, woke up the next day after a hangover.
So literally within a few hours of everything ending, Sam finds somebody to rule his ring and they get married.
No, that's a story that's in the first movie.
Yeah.
So it does a callback?
There's no callback. It sets it up. Yeah, it's a callback, film. But it sets it up in the first film.
Yeah, she's such a minor character, and that is in the book. Like he does get married to Rosie and everything, but kind of jumping off what you piggybacking off what you said, Johnny. One of the criticism of this film is that there's like 7 different endings to this. By the time you get to them getting back to the Shire, you're just like, okay, is this over yet? Oh no, so we still have like another 15-20 more minutes of this.
It ties all the knots and makes it gives you all the okay, we're good here.
I had to double check the info button on the PlayStation because I was like, wait a minute, did I put it in the extended version? Because like all these different 4 different endings, and then Frodo ends up leaving him behind. Where's Frodo going? He's going back to acting school.
Never know.
No, and this is again referencing the book. Him and Bilbo, I think what I like about it is that they've had to deal with the evil so much that the world that they live in, it's just they're never going to be safe. I mean, I know that the armies is gone, Sauron's gone, but it's almost like they're scarred for life, and so they have to go somewhere else where they're much more. They can live like a more peaceful life. Like Middle Earth for them is not. It's not it anymore.
They're going under hiding.
Yeah. Well, to make you really piss you off, Johnny, in the book, there's a whole like when they get back from destroying the ring and everything, and Aragorn becomes king. They come back to a Shire that's been conquered by Sauron, and they have to come up with like this whole like last ditch effort to save the Shire from Sauron or Saruman, and it's just like no, you better be glad that was not how this movie was going to end.
Oh my god,
Peter Jackson did a lot better ending to the movie than what was in the book. So, but did you like that? Did you like the emotional tie-up of Frodo has to leave and it's essentially like he's done his job and he has to go rest now?
Yeah, it gave me like a Yoda-like ending. You know how in Empire Strikes Back he just disappears and he dies.
Don't do it, Craig. Don't do it.
I kind of felt the same way. I'm like, oh, that's it. That's the end of Frodo. Bobo Baggins looks so old and like he's going away. And I'm like, man,
Both Baggins.
why does he look so old? He didn't look that old in Fellowship.
Because he had the ring, and it prevented him from aging.
Oh, yeah.
So his age
right.
just caught up to him since he didn't have the ring.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So
then the same thing will happen to Frodo. Then he'll get old and.
No, not necessarily, because Bilbo had the ring for quite some time, and so the ring prevented him from aging.
Yeah.
And so
Frodo's technically a young man when he gets the ring, so it's not much, he hadn't had it for like 64 years or whatever.
So what do you guys think? I mean, I know the person who wrote this book and all this stuff has been dead for a long time. Is there anything written past Return of the King?
There's another book
that can become like another epic billion-dollar franchise.
The only other one that could possibly, and I don't really know anything about it. It's called the Silmarillion. It's like I don't know if it's like takes place after Return of the King or what, but it's essentially just a whole nother like family lineage that, like, while Lord of the Rings is going on, this is what's going on, like in another part of Middle Earth. So, I know people have asked Peter Jackson if he's going to do it. He said no. He's done Lord of the Rings. He's done The Hobbit. Like he's good.
And then, I mean, obviously with the ring being destroyed in this one, there's nothing to sought after or anything like that, I guess.
You guys know what's crazy? I was thinking about something like this the other day, but now it kind of ties in. This movie was made in 2003, which means that people that were born the same year can't even drink. You know what I mean? Like, it's mind-blowing how fast time is going and how far, you blink and next thing you know, movies are 20 years old. And
man, that's true.
Another movie that turned 20 years old this year is Elf. Like, it has like a little thing on Max where you can watch Elf and says, "Oh, celebrating 20 years this year." I was like, is it really been that long?
I was talking to Mallory. We drove by one of my old jobs, and I was like, it's been 10 years since I worked there, and then I was like 10 years prior to that, like the same timeline from now to then, from then to 10 years prior. I was in third grade, and it's just kind of wild to think like in that time frame where it's like between this gap, if you were to go back even further with the same gap, that's where you were at. It's just wild to think.
Well, and the bonkers thing about it is that it's crazy that this movie's 20 years old and yet it looks a lot better than some of the movies that get released today. I mean,
because
like the
they
visuals
took their
and everything.
time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that, and that goes the same for like Jurassic Park. That movie turned 30 years old this year, and like Jurassic Park has some of the better visual effects than some of the Marvel movies now. It's just like, what?
But you also have to look at it like how much time went into the filming, the creating, and then look at the technology today to preserve some of these movies and all the stuff that goes on, making sure that they last another 20 years. Speaking
of preservation, Johnny, you want to elaborate on that post you shared a little bit earlier with PlayStation?
Oh, yeah. You want me to read the whole thing?
Sure. Yeah, read it. So just so everybody's aware, PlayStation has decided to not extend their agreement with a certain movie company or media company. And so if you bought anything digitally on their platform, you are no longer going to have access to it. Whereas if you were to buy something physically, you can still have access to it for as long as you keep it in usable condition. So that's, and somebody, I'll let you get to it here in a second. Somebody had talked or said something, and it's like, when you buy digitally, you're essentially renting it. Mm-hmm. You're never going to have complete ownership of that copy. Yeah. No matter how you
don't really
how much you fight or want, you never own it. It is simply a renting of that copy.
Even when your movies come with these and you put them on a streaming service, like, that's still not yours.
Yeah, if that service ended today, you no longer own that.
Right.
So go ahead, proceed with your.
So this was not to me. Like I said, I shared this, but it says as of December 31st, 2023, due to our content licensing arrangements with content providers, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and the content will be removed from your video library. Click here for a full list of affected titles that will no longer be supported. Thank you, sincerely, PlayStation Store.
Yeah. Yep. So when we speak about,
So
and it might be too late now.
So like, okay, so, and again, I'm not much in the gaming world, but you can fill in the blanks for me, Craig. So if you bought digitally Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation, you like if that was one of the titles, you don't have access to it anymore unless you have like a physical copy of it.
Essentially, if PlayStation just up and said tomorrow we are shutting down as a company, that's it. The Super Nintendo from 1992 or whatever, 30 years ago, you can still play those games day to day, no matter what. Say you were to go back and you were able to digitally purchase stuff for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo folded as a company 6 years ago because they weren't able to keep up with the times and produce top quality content or something.
Right.
You can't go back and play that stuff. There's no server to allow you to play it. Everything you have is based on a server. And that server's gone. There's nobody pushing out that information, that data. It's gone. You're done. So, yeah, I purchased things like Madden or 2K, or if a game's super cheap, I'll buy it digitally. But I mean, you go back. I got a couple things right here. Paper Mario. It's a disc. It's a hard copy. I can play this anytime I want, whenever I want. It doesn't matter what happens to Nintendo as a company. If I own the equipment, I can play it. And it's fun to see that because, like you said, Best Buy stopping selling.
Is that you think that's really licensing agreements, or do you think that's about money?
It's the same thing. If Sony came to them and was like, "Look, we don't necessarily pull in as much money as we thought we would. We're not going to pay you $300,000 to license your stuff to put it on our system," and we're like, "Well, we want $300,000." It's like, "Well, we're not going to give it to you. Okay, you can no longer provide our stuff on your service."
So, are you a fan of the digital only game systems?
No, I think everything in today's world is in a now sense. Play it now, stream it now, watch it now, own it now. Whereas physical stuff, like I said, you can play Super Nintendo stuff from 1993. Yeah, there's going to be ways to rip it and play it online or download it online illegally, I might add. But you'll never have full ownership of it if you do that.
Well, and that's the crazy part because like we were at GameStop over the weekend, and I was just talking to one of the employees. I was like, "Well, do they still do like discs anymore?" I was like, "Because we all three grew up when you had to go buy the game and you had to download it from the disc onto the system." It's like, no, some of the systems they don't even do discs anymore. You have to do it through the store, and that goes back to what you were saying, Craig. It's just like, well, how if you bought, I don't know, the Avengers game on there, which I've heard that is like that they got rid of that.
I did. I bought it online.
You bought it online, and so like if the Microsoft Store went out of business or whatever, you wouldn't have access to that no more. Correct?
Yep. Correct.
Wow.
Which is why Johnny has what he has. People laugh at him. It's like, well, you can just watch it on Netflix. Well,
who laughed at me?
People. I mean, people are like, why do you own? People,
why do you have so many movies?
Why do you own that much stuff? Why do you do that much stuff? You could just watch it on Netflix. How many movies does Netflix take off on a month-to-month basis?
Dude, like month.
Dude, I just saw that they added the whole DC universe, at least the Zack Snyder films, onto Netflix. and now they're taking off like the MonsterVerse movies like Godzilla, and it's like
Yeah.
they just put those on there. Like, what was the point of putting them on there if you're just going to take them off like a month later?
Yeah.
That's why when I want to watch Hell or High Water, I have a physical copy. I don't have to worry about Netflix or any of them.
Or
Like-
God's Not Dead.
Oh,
Yeah, like it's the convenient factor of buying digitally. It's nice if you don't if you don't plan on keeping stuff physically for the long haul, and you're just you're that type of person where you're like, I only want to play something while it's relevant. By all means, do it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I'm looking at something,
If you get that itch, you
Well, it's
want to scratch that itch.
it's like, I'll use this for an example because I have it. It's Paper Mario. Buy this game for $30 at GameStop in 2006 because it was used. GameCube's going out of style. The Wii's coming in. Now it's $100 to resell. Like, for me, it's not just like being able to play the game. It's holding the game, preserving the game. It's a part of a collection. And I think the whole, like I said, instance of today's world is I just want to use it, watch it, stream it now. Like there's no.
Well, and like
It's sad, honestly.
Well, and it's such a completely different world because like if I want to watch West Side Story, I may watch that like maybe 2 times more in my life. I don't want to rely on a streaming service to say like, hey, we have it, we may have it, who knows? It could be on Disney Plus. If I just have this, then I don't have to worry about doing that.
Yeah, and because I said Wednesday before, whenever we were talking about previously watched, I was watching the Pokemon movies. They're not readily available anywhere.
Yeah,
you have to find them somewhere, and if you find them, it's usually pay $3.99, pay $6.99 to rent it. Okay, I get that itch. I watch it that one time. What if I want to watch it again in a year and a half? I got to pay another $6.99 to rent it, or to buy it, or you know what I mean. So,
and that to me is just like, I get it comes down to licensing fees and who can have it and who's willing to pay the top dollar. I know, Seinfeld was on Hulu for the longest time, and then Netflix paid out the money for them to have the rights for until like 2026 or something like that.
Yeah.
But to me, if you're gonna have a streaming service, just have access to everything, which I know is virtually impossible, like I said. But at the same time, it's just like, if I want to watch Godzilla versus Kong, I don't have to jump to 5 different services just to watch it.
Yeah.
You got that itch, you can scratch it.
Yeah.
Favorite scene of Return of the King. Craig, you want to go first?
Man, favorite scene. I enjoy the big battle with the elephants. I think that's one of the more kind of epic scenes in this one. But if I'm going to take it down to the nitty gritty of a scene that I think is like just the most iconic, I'm going to say it's when the trio enters Mount Doom. They finally reached the place where the ring's supposed to be destroyed, and that whole sequence where you really see Sean Astin kind of like he has a sigh of relief, we made it, and then Frodo changes his mind and he's like, no, the ring's mine. Like it's very tense, it's very powerful. Sean Astin, it really just nails the role of being so torn and twisted of I really care for Frodo, but at the same time we're here to do a job, and I'm not sure how I need to react or feel. So I think that scene in particular is probably the most powerful in the movie.
If I had to pick a scene, it would be the scene on top of the volcano or the lava. What's that actual called, Zach? I know him. Is it Doom?
Mount Doom. Yeah.
Mount Doom.
Yeah.
I just had all those different fun scenarios playing in the back of my head. It's the ending adventure, technically, of the ring and of Sam and Frodo. So I had a lot of fun with that scene. If I had to pick one that just stands out throughout the entire film, it's that one.
So same with me.
Yeah.
I'd say action sequences. I agree with you, Craig. The elephant scene is just phenomenal.
You got the dude from 300 in there too, King whatever. of the Persians.
Yeah. Xerxes.
Xerxes, yeah.
Yeah. That completely changes that scene altogether.
You'll never be able to not see it now.
I know. If I had to pick a character moment, I'll just do one kind of different. When Gollum puts the wedge between Sam and Frodo and kind of just forces Sam to leave. It's emotionally driven, and also it's an action sequence, but also kind of a very dramatic moment of when the city is breached and Gandalf is saying, like, let's move back to the second level, and you can just see all chaos and hell breaking loose. It's just, that's really a moment in the movie where just like, I don't know, maybe they don't make it out of this one, honestly.
Yeah.
So
all righty, it's that time. Star rating for Return of the King 20 years later. I'm gonna give it a 9.
I'll go and give it a 10. I think my favorite is still Fellowship, just because it's just so easy to watch. But on this rewatch, it really is a 10 out of 10 and it deserves Best Picture and all the accolades that it got. So
yeah. With the cast like this, with the score, with everything a part of it, I mean, if you're willing to, it's a journey. I mean, like, this whole trilogy is based on a journey. If you're able to withstand the 3-hour movie, I need to watch the director's extended cut. But if you're able to withstand it and you enjoy the story of this movie, there's really nothing wrong with any of these three. They may be slow in some parts, they may be action filled in some parts, but in the entirety of the three of them, it's just one giant story, and I don't see anything wrong at any part of these three movies. So it's a 10 for me.
Yeah.
Zach, is this your favorite trilogy of all time?
Yeah, probably. If you don't include the fourth Toy Story, I think Toy Story is like right behind it. But I do think, as just a 3 arc film, yeah, I'd say Lord of the Rings is my favorite.
I was gonna say that, like,
yeah,
it was number 2 until Toy Story added number 4.
Yeah.
No, there's not many that can compete with it. I mean, Star Wars went past it, obviously. Indiana Jones went past it.
It would or wouldn't.
Well, I'm just saying, like, as far as like trilogies go, movies
they've had more
gone
films
past that trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just sit down and think of like what's actually a 3-film trilogy.
What about The Godfather?
What if it was 4, 5, and 6 of the original Star Wars movies? Would it still surpass it for you, Craig?
Of just like the original?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's a weird dynamic because of how out of the box Star Wars was for its time. Yeah. How far it truly pushed its boundaries for the time that it came out. You look back and it's like, okay, yeah, they're good movies. You know, they still hold a certain place. They're still 9s, 8s, 9s, 10s, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were to look at that dynamic, I don't think anything can truly pass Star Wars, in my opinion, just because of what it actually did for cinema. The way they were able to, he was like, you guys take all the money to push it out, but I get the marketability of it, and I get all the benefits and the money from marketing. And they're like, okay, we'll do that. And so I think Star Wars truly pushed marketing, truly pushed toys, merchandising, literally everything. I think Star Wars as a whole cemented what cinema is, in my personal opinion. I think there was cinema before, but it really made movies an event.
Yeah.
And so if you want to look at it at that aspect, I don't think anything, it's by far 4, 5, and 6 is the best. But I think Lord of the Rings as a trilogy of 1, 2, 3 is probably the best.
I don't think it surpasses it, but what about for you, Johnny, the Godfather trilogy, since I know you like those films?
To me, if I had to pick just like my favorite all-time trilogy, it would be Godfather 1, The Dark Knight 1B.
Oh, The Dark Knight. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Those are just
that one's tough too.
Dark
Yeah,
Knight is a good trilogy.
those are just to me those are perfect, just from beginning to end.
What about even though they're more newer than obviously the other the Lord of the Rings, but what about the Creed trilogy? Creed trilogy.
I don't even think of Creed when I think of trilogy.
Oh, I know, but I know Creed. I know it's just like a brand new, technically trilogy. Well, not really, because the fourth one's there's going to be a fourth one. So no, that doesn't count.
I mean, as a trilogy, Creed is good. I don't think it's a top 10 trilogy. Like when you truly look at trilogies, it's like, how well were you able to piece together a story across 3 movies?
Yeah,
and
now really you don't have that many anymore, because the good ones make so much money that they're just adding on for no reason.
Yeah. Oh, another trilogy we did this year, Star Trek, the Chris Pine Star Treks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not considering The Hobbit a part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because it's like, yes, it's the same universe and it's kind of an extending of the story, but it's a completely different trilogy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, as long as y'all.
Yeah. It's a prequel, but it's a different side of the story.
They have different names. They have different title names to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was a good conversation as far as the trilogy bring up and the movie. So,
I would say rapid fire, not really rapid fire, but top 3 trilogies. Can you name? Do you have a set in your mind?
Dark Knight, Godfather,
Matrix.
No, they have a 4th one now.
Oh fuck!
I'm
not considering that movie. Like, come on now. We all know that
I would use Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6. I would cheat.
You would cheat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think outside of Lord of the Rings and the Dark Knight trilogy, I don't hate The Godfather Part 3, but it's just not as memorable as the first 2. I don't know if I'd say those are like the 2 best trilogies. If they hadn't done Toy Story 4, I'd probably put Toy Story in there as well.
So on this list, it says Lord of the Rings is the top trilogy. 4, 5, and 6 is the second. Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Toy Story 1, 2, 3. So obviously this list was done before 4 came out. The Godfather, the Bourne trilogy.
Oh yeah,
but
there's 4 of them.
There's a 4th one. Yeah.
There's a 4th one now.
There's
and
5.
A Jeremy Renner one. Yeah.
Indiana Jones 1, 2, 3, which obviously came out.
Oh yeah, those are good films too.
Yeah.
The Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones are 3.
Oh yeah.
The Matrix,
the original, yeah.
The Evil Dead trilogy. Not my favorite, but it's the
original Scream trilogy 1, 2, and 3 was a trilogy for a long time.
Aliens 1, 2, and 3, Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, and 3.
What about David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy?
Next week, guys,
Yeah, this has Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, X-Men 1, 2, 3, Terminator. I mean, if you were to just go and say, like, okay, the first 3 movies of a franchise.
That opens it up a little bit.
That opens it up. I think that opens up it a lot. I think
Dark Knight trilogy is on there?
It was on there.
Oh.
Aliens was pretty good, 1, 2, and 3.
Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3. That's low on the list, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next week, Johnny?
Next week, another 2023 sensation. We're talking about Sound of Freedom next Wednesday, December 20th. It's one of the movies that made a lot of money when it wasn't supposed to this year. So we're going to sit back. I haven't seen it this year. We're going to sit back and dissect it, talk about it. December 20th, Sound of Freedom. So should be a fun conversation. Should be a good movie to talk about. A lot of people have it in their top 5 of 2023. So should be fun. next week's episode.
Johnny, why is your J lowercase and then UAN is uppercase?
Just realized this.
I was looking at it, I was like, huh.
It's like iTunes, but just his own version of it.
There you go.
J1.
You won. But what do you guys think? Next week, Zach, have you seen Sound of Freedom? It's one of those movies that was, labeled as controversial. The way it was propped up against everybody on July 4th weekend. There were some stories about there that some movie theaters didn't want it to be shown. A lot of people didn't want it to be shown. But we're talking about it next week. I haven't seen it, so it's going to be first time watch.
Yeah, I saw this actually July 4th weekend in the theater. I'll talk about just the experience of it, and I've already done the rewatch of it, and you better strap yourself in. So that's all pretty much what I'll say about that.
I haven't seen it yet, so
have not either.
But I believe it's on the Vudu. If you guys want to check it out before next week's episode, we will talk about it next Wednesday, December 20th. And then the week after that, it's the final episode of the year, our top 5 plus 5 favorite holiday movies. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a holiday movie to you. These are the top 10 movies I have to watch in order for it to feel like Christmas. So we're going to talk about it 2 weeks from today. Other than that, guys, final nail in the coffin for Return of the King. Any final comments?
It's just cool to finish the trilogy off. I mean, we started this back 2 years ago with Fellowship, and it's kind of bittersweet to see it come to an end, honestly, like watching the films. So
Zach, we always talk about The Hobbit.
It's like doing it as they came out. Kind of cool and unique.
Battle of the Armies turns 10 years old next year, so you never know.
You've added quite a bit to the Vudu listings.
Oh yeah, that is going to be that is a good bring up though, Craig. Just a retrospect of talking about them as they all three each turned 20 years. So
yep,
it was a pretty good conversation.
I saw you rewatch The Menu again.
Oh yeah,
how was that rewatch?
We didn't talk about it at the beginning of the episode, but the rewatch of The Menu was honestly fantastic. Just catching all the tidbits that I didn't catch before, and the dialogue was just I highly recommend it.
After rewatching it, what do you think of Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor in James Gunn's universe?
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's going to be Lex Luthor in the new Superman.
Man, I think if he can be a despising little twerm like he was in The Menu, I think it's going to be good.
I was going to say, did you still want to punch him in the face by the end of the movie?
That was me.
Yeah, that was
Craig.
That was Craig. But I mean, I didn't realize it was on HBO Max this whole time anyway. But Black Friday pickup, I thought it was pretty fun.
See, to me, Lex Luthor was comic in the animated Lex Luthor. He was obviously bald, nerdy, but he still had a powerful stance to him. He wasn't just some smart kind of pushover. Like he still had
some build,
right?
Yeah,
guys.
No, I
he
agree.
He had a villain essence to him, not just like you said.
I agree. The last two Lex Luthors now, talking about Nicholas Hoult and Jesse Eisenberg, like they're just like the little geeky, I'm smarter than you kind of dude that you can just pick up and throw. And I think maybe that's what they're going for. But I really did enjoy Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed Gene Hackman from the original Superman because they had a little bit more meat on the bone.
Yeah, they were like a bully type.
Yeah. Well, they had much more like ambition. They had a lot more anger towards Superman, not just like, oh, he's a god, we got to kill him now. Like, no,
Eisenberg's were.
It doesn't fit that as that character.
But
that's a later conversation.
We'll see. I it's not off on the right foot. For James Gunn's universe already. So
he could have made Batista Lex Luthor.
Oh, geez.
But
John Cena.
There you go. Until then, guys. Next week, Sound of Freedom on another brand new episode of the Cine-Men. Movie Podcast.